The order still requires congressional approval to fully eliminate the department. Critics, including teachers groups, are already filing lawsuits concerned about the potential impact on vulnerable students. Today, the president claimed things like Pell Grants and Title I funding for disadvantaged students will be preserved, but will shift to other departments. Here at home, you might be wondering how this will affect students here around San Diego. CBS 8's Kelly Hezedal joins us from San Diego Unified's headquarters. Kelly, okay, so explain to people what not having a federal Department of Education means for our local school districts and our students here in San Diego.
Well, and I think that remains the big question. I talked to people both here locally and at the state level who say they just aren't sure what this is all going to look like when it's all said and done. However, I think that the real concern is bottom line. They say that this could affect students not just in the near future, but also down the road.
This department was created to ensure that all students have access to a high quality education. And so this will change that if they're able to, suffocate the funding. They can't end it. It is legally required that they provide it, whether that's through another department or agency that they're creating. That's, again, the stuff we're just not sure of.
And so there you see President Trump signing that executive order to begin dismantling the Department of Education. Now, Kendra Britt, whom you just heard from, she's with the California County Superintendents, and she says there are about 800,000 students with special needs in our state that she worries could feel the direct impact. She says there's also early learning programs that help low-income families that she fears could also be affected, regardless of claims by the president that Title I funding will remain intact. Now, on top of that, she says all of this could have a ripple effect on all public school students, potentially meaning bigger class sizes and maybe a scaling back of after-school programs. But back out here live, there are just a lot of unknowns, a lot of uncertainty. The Trump administration has talked about shifting control from the federal government to the states when it comes to education and potentially giving them things like block grants so that they can spend it on education there in their own states. But critics have said, with no Department of Education, there's no oversight in making sure that states are actually spending the money on the education that they're supposed to. Anna?
Okay, I know there's still a lot of questions and not sure. I mean, the president has said those programs for children with special needs and kids in underserved communities, that those will be preserved, but I'm guessing the concern is that they won't have the full resources not coming from the feds.
Right. He has said that today that funding is going to be preserved, and he said it's going to be shifted to another department for another department to oversee it. But we don't know which departments those are. And, Britt, the person that you just heard from, she says, what is this all going to look like in the long run? What is the roadmap for this? She says there's just too many questions right now to say.
Well, how much of our funding for public education actually comes from the federal government, Kelly?
And I asked that question today. It's around anywhere from 8 to 10%, depending on the district, which doesn't sound like a whole lot. But when you're talking about a lot of districts that are constantly trying to balance their budgets, we're hearing about layoffs pretty much every single year. You can imagine that every dollar counts.
I was just thinking that every penny counts at this point in education. Kelly, thank you. This is a big story. Thanks for following it.